Are you engaged with your job, with your career, with your employer? Do you feel a sense of belonging? Do you feel like you matter? That's the first thing that pops into my head, So for people working from home, I remember we also in the midst of COVID would do like Zoom happy hours. Bring whatever you want to do. It could be water. It could be a glass of wine. You do you, but you have that space to, see people and interact.
Your work in understanding ourselves, it has helped me tremendously. Once I understood my blueprint, I was able to almost feel myself like a butterfly, just really free, versus the criticism that I have for myself, like overly thinking the worst that I was doing, always looking to improve, which is a good quality to some degree. Can you share more about what the tool that you had? It was called Basis A. And I've never seen it before. And I know in workplace, often it's important for us, and we take, have the 360 reviews and we learn a little bit about our strength. And this in particular, and I've taken many different things, and this is not an infomercial, but I really want to understand how we understand ourselves, how we can have that movement that Adler speaks about towards what we really, really desire our goals to be.
I love your word blueprint, because I think, well, at least I hope, people can imagine, blueprints for a building, right? Or something, have that image in mind. The concept that was measured in that Basis A inventory that you took and that we went over together is an objective lifestyle assessment tool. If we're going to talk about that, let's talk first about lifestyle. So when you think about blueprints, the metaphor analogy that makes sense to me is our thumbprint. Right? So each of us living on this planet has a very unique thumbprint. Nobody else has the same exact thumbprint. Even identical twins do not have the same exact thumbprint. So if we consider that the style of life, the way that we approach situations, people, environments, things like that, that's really what we're talking about. So a concise definition of lifestyle is one's unique view of self, others, and the world. And so the Basis A inventory measures a variety of traits and aspects of personality and asks you to answer items that are based on childhood stuff, which comes from theory. Adler said our lifestyle was formed by the time we're about, 5, 6, 7 years old, definitely by the time we're 10. And so if we think about those early elementary school years, that's when our lifestyle, the way that we approach life and understand ourselves and others and the world around us, that's when that's forming. So not only do we have family, factors and family cultural variables and societal and community variables that come into play for us, we also have, students and teachers and a school environment and the expectations that come along with that help shape us. So our thumbprint gets formed kind of as a result of all of those interactions and our young brains trying to figure out, who am I going to be in this space and how am I going to show up and what is my connection to others going to look like? So that's what the Basis A measures. It measures lifestyle. It does so across 10 scales. It's a 65-item assessment tool, so it's pretty fast. It's pretty quick, easy. It has you think back to when you were a kid and how much you strongly agree to strongly disagree with various statements. Our time together and going over it, what you uncovered, you're speaking of that was really, really helpful, was seeing, this is how I show up in terms of how much I follow rules or figure things out on my own, or how much I'm a collaborative leader versus a take charge kind of a person, or this is how much I value other people's input and approval, or I just pat myself on the back and don't really worry about other people's thoughts or approval. So it's aspects like that show up on the Basis A inventory.
Yes, and it was quite empowering to know, okay, well, sometimes it was very difficult as a leader for me to figure out the cause and effect, because I would send out a message, but the message would not be received the same way. And after speaking to you, those are some of the things that were really clear, especially how I show up, because I can sometimes take the task and just do it. but how does that make the other person feel, right? So thank you for that, Susan. And that was a lovely gift. Thanks for explaining as well. Can you share some strategy or techniques inspired by Adlerian psychology that refers to feeling significance and belonging in the workplace and within the team groups?
One of the things I think that we need to recognize first is knowing ourselves well enough. And that, the basis A helps, with this particular idea about how much of an introverted person, a one-on-one kind of a person are we versus an extroverted, group-oriented, outgoing kind of a person are we? Because I think the strategies for belonging have to take that into consideration because it's not a one-size-fits-all. So to tell somebody, oh, well, just go out there and be part of the group and they're an introverted soul, like that's probably not going to be very helpful. So I think that, first things first, you have to know, like, what do I gravitate toward? Do I gravitate toward and have this kind of natural inclination to want to be with other people and to hear other people and things like that? Or, am I more of a private, I'd rather, in the life of a party, I'd much rather be talking to somebody one-on-one standing against a wall versus being the one leading the dance, the dances out on the dance floor. So I think that's important to know first. For people who are more introverted, it's not that they're lacking belonging or that they lack social interest in any way. It's just how they go about finding it is very, very different. Things that can help foster belonging for introverts in the workplace, give them a task to do that they can kind of take and do on their own and bring back to the group versus expecting them to be, very outspoken and intimately involved in discussions and conversations with the whole entire group of people. Like that's not going to be a good source of contribution for somebody who's more introverted. So, so if we think about leaders or managers or people kind of in those positions, have team members or worker bees that are working for them, knowing that about your workers can help you assign tasks and ways that actually make somebody feel like, yes, I'm an important part of this team. I have something to contribute. For each of us to know, how do I show up and what's my tendency? If I know I'm an introverted person, maybe going to my boss and saying, hey, is there some portion of this project I can take and do on my own and come back and bring to the group? And then the outgoing people can be like, hey, I'll participate in the discussions. I'll lead the focus groups. I'll do, those kinds of things. So I think we got to know ourselves, but I also think that it's important for managers and leaders to recognize who's on my team and where do they feel the most comfortable in interactions with others. So I'm kind of talking about the two ends of the spectrum, right? The ones that are definitely extroverted and the ones that are definitely introverted. And then you have a whole slew of folks that are probably somewhere in the middle. So again, I think, the notion of helping to ensure belonging and again, that sense of, I know I have space and I contribute and I matter, really it can boil down to something easy like a leader asking a subordinate or an employee, what do you think fits you best? Are you more be part of the group and do you want to participate in this part of the project, or do you want to take a piece of it and work on it on your own? So, simple questions like that versus making assumptions, everybody's going to approach things the same.
So true. And one of the things that pops up for me, because lots has changed in the last 4 or 5 years. We're in 2024 and we're back to the workplace and routines somewhat. However, we still have the online and at home. And then sometimes those who are more likely to work on their own, working from home in that isolation and the social interactions that are so necessary. What are some ideas that you might have on bringing this employee that might be working from home, but might be isolated from the Adlerian perspective?
Finding and creating opportunities, for that sense of connection. So maybe that looks like, once a quarter, companies will, have a retreat day and do something, it could be something really productive or it could just be something for fun. There's so many neat places that exist out there. Down here in the Atlanta area, Topgolf seems to be, one of those places that businesses love to go and take employees. But, just something out of the ordinary. So that way, those who are working from home can still, come in and, instead of sitting in front of a computer colleague X, Y, and Z, now they get to, play golf or hang out or, share a meal or something with, colleague X, Y, and Z. So I think, it's important for employers to think outside the box so they know that they're meeting those morale needs, those belonging needs, Engagement is a huge buzzword these days in the workplace. And to me, that just means belonging. Are you engaged with your job, with your career, with your employer? Like, to me, do you feel a sense of belonging? Do you feel like you matter? That's the first thing that pops into my head. So for people working from home, I remember we also in the midst of COVID would do like Zoom happy hours. Bring whatever you want to do. It could be water. It could be a glass of wine. Like, you do you, but you have that space to, see people and interact and things like that too.
If you like the content of this video, please don't forget to follow. And also, if you want more information, visit the website, yogipateltte.com.